Find the domain of the function and express your answer in interval notation. The domain is whatever x can be. And 90% of the time, x can be any number in the world. However, if your function has a denominator where there is an x in it, or if you have a square root sign, a radical, then there's some issues. And this one has a denominator of x plus 4. Now, when you're in fraction land, there's one thing you cannot do, and that is divide by 0. If you take 3 divided by 0, your calculator is going to give you an error message because this thing is undefined. You cannot divide by 0. Now you can divide into 0, like if I took 0 and divided by 3, that's still 0. And I can actually visualize that. If I gave you a pile of nothing and I said, please divide that into 3 piles, I could do that. A pile of nothing, a pile of nothing, and a pile of nothing. But if I have 3 items and I say divide this into 0 piles, it's physically impossible to do. You can't do it, so therefore it's undefined. So you have to be careful because the denominator is not allowed to be 0. Well, right now the denominator is an x plus 4. So the x plus 4 is not allowed to equal 0. And if I solve it for x, I'll know what x is not allowed to be. And to solve for x, I just have to subtract 4 on both sides, because 4 minus 4 cancels, and that just leaves you with the x. So x is not allowed to equal a negative 4. It can be any other number in the world. It just can't be negative 4. Now, if x can be any number, then in interval notation, that would be from negative infinity to positive infinity. That is every number in the world. However, we have to leave out the number 4. So our final answer is going to be a couple of intervals. We're going to start with the smallest possible value, which is negative infinity, and we're going to come up to negative 4. But we will not include negative 4, and to not include it, you would use a parenthesis. Then, if there's going to be another interval, we use this little symbol here, which is called the union symbol, which means it's going to be everybody in this group and everybody in that group, 2 separate groups. So you're going to use another set of parentheses for the negative 4 on the other side, and then go to positive infinity. This way you're basically saying, I can go from negative infinity up to as close to negative 4 as possible, which would be like negative 4.000000000000001. And on the other side, I will go to the very next number after negative 4, which would be negative 3.99999999999 repeating, and then go to infinity. The parentheses say you do not include them. And you'll notice that both the negative infinity and the positive infinity also have parentheses. That's because technically nobody has ever gotten to infinity. You just don't get there, so you can't really include it. When you use brackets, that's when you include things in your answer. And we'll use these when we deal with radicals, and that'll come later. So, but for right now, that's the answer. Oh, this is the answer here. That's my interval. That's the fancy way of saying in interval notation that x can be any number in the world but a negative 4.